Eyo, Greg Branos for the Coach Speak Index. What is good, everybody? Monday, July the 15th. I know a lot of you took off of work today to play the new NCAA college football game just to get trounced by some 11-year-old kid online somewhere. Sometimes we need a good humbling just to keep us grounded. A lot of people want to stay true to the grind. I want to stay true to the ground. I want to hear the Wake Forest fight song 17 times because I can't stop slow mesh. I want to be the slobber and slobber knocker. And if you like a good fight, if you like an old-fashioned Donnybrook, put them up, and I think you are going to enjoy today's breakdown of the NFC North. We will begin with the Chicago Bears. Jay Cutler, Jimmy Clausen, Matt Barkley, Brian Hoyer, Mitch Trubisky, Mike Glennon, Chase Daniel, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, Trevor Siemian, Nathan Peterman, Tyson Bagent. Those are the Chicago Bears starting quarterbacks over the last decade. No franchise has ever been down badder. I believe Caleb Williams will change that. Such a ludicrous talent, and the Bears have surrounded him with stud playmakers and a supporting cast to help him show out from day one. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roman Odunze, a pretty good offensive line, a pair of decent tight ends, a deep running back room with an array of skills. Caleb Williams won't have to be eased in like some of the other quarterbacks from this draft class. He is pro ready. This kid has some wheels too. Nearly 1,000 rushing yards in 3 years of college, 27 rushing touchdowns. The Seattle Seahawks threw at the 5th highest rate last season under offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, who is the Bears' new offensive coordinator. And this is a pretty similar personnel setup when you compare the Bears receiving core of Moore, Allen, and Odunze to DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Two teams who invested high draft capital on a third receiver. The Seahawks ran 11 personnel just 52.9% of the time in 2022. After they drafted JSN, that shot up to 64.2%. I'm betting we'll see a similar number for Chicago this year. Their strength on offense is their passing attack. I think they let Caleb Williams loose to work his magic. Over 3,450.5 passing yards on FanDuel is a nice little bet. Caleb Williams is my QB 11. That is 2 spots ahead of consensus. His fantasy playoff schedule goes week 15 at Minnesota, then home for weeks 16 and 17 against the Lions and Seahawks. Chicago Bears running backs. Here is Matt Eberflus on DeAndre Swift.
So what DeAndre Swift can mean for a rookie quarterback and the importance of this season for him?
Yeah, DeAndre's looked really good during this offseason. He's very, obviously, you guys know he's very quick. He's a weapon out of the backfield, which is outstanding for our passing game. And it's going to create some mismatches for us. And he can do a lot of things from the backfield. We can split him out wide and run the full route cheese. So he's exciting to watch.
As you looked at the running back options out there this offseason, what really struck you? So you guys moved quickly for DeAndre. What really struck you about him versus some of the other guys and what he could really bring to this?
Yeah, just much of the same. Just the weapon back. You know, we really needed that guy that could really operate on third down and even on first and second down and be a weapon in the deep part of the field and the short part of the field and be able to take it the distance. And he's got a lot of gas.
He can operate even on first and second down. They want to use him in the passing game in the deep parts of the field. This is a weird little preview of usage that has me has me a little tense. Here is Matt Eberflus in 2023 laying out his hot hand split backfield philosophy.
With your running backs, when you guys just philosophically speaking, when you guys enter a game, you have obviously a plan of who's going to get the first few series, then moving in. Do you kind of project what could happen if one guy gets a hot hand? I'm just curious kind of how your overall philosophy is in terms of using those backs, in terms of prepping during the week and then flexibility in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you always go with your first 15, and those guys are going to get touches during that first 15 or 20 plays, and then you look and see where it is, and some guys get certain type of plays, inside, outside, pass plays that are designed to go to them, or they're maybe primary of the route. Maybe they're not, the coverage takes it away, and then we go somewhere else. But you certainly have all those plans, and then you see where it is. A guy rips off a run, or he's doing a really good job. You start feeding that guy, and that's kind of how it works. And but we certainly like having three guys that we can go to.
So with the Vikings game, was that an example where Roshan was just playing at a level where you guys are like, let's just keep him in there? Like, it wasn't planned during the week that he was going to necessarily play that much.
Yeah, it's one of those operations where he was pretty hot. He did a nice job, and we liked his energy and the way he was playing, and he certainly looked good in that game.
So the Bears gave DeAndre Swift a nice contract. They have a new offensive coordinator. But I want to lay out this bear case for DeAndre Swift that goes beyond this hot hand philosophy, right? Like, it's not just this hot hand mindset that Eberflus has. It's these additional things on top of it. First of all, not a good short yardage back. And that really limits his goal line opportunities in a running back room of Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson, who are good short yardage backs. Also, DeAndre Swift, bad in pass protection. Not as awful as Khalil Herbert, but how comfortable will Chicago be with tasking DeAndre Swift to pass block for rookie quarterback Caleb Williams? And yes, it is a different offensive coordinator now, but Seattle's top scoring running backs each season under Shane Waldron were running back 27, 18, and 22 in PPR. Seattle was also 30th in running back targets during Waldron's tenure as offensive coordinator. DeAndre Swift is my running back 26. That is even with the market. Khalil Herbert, running back 53. That is 4 spots ahead of consensus. And then Roschon Johnson, running back 60, which is even with the market. Bears wide receivers, virtually all of the coach speak on Bears receivers this offseason has been about number 9 overall pick, Rome Odunze. And asked to name a player who stood out thus far during OTAs, Eberflus said Rome Odunze. Here is that clip.
Player that jumped out at you, it's like, whoa, I'm impressed that he's reached this level, rookie and or vet.
Yeah, I would say Rome really impressed us, in terms of his ability to grab concepts and really execute out there, for sure. But again, there's a lot of guys that impressed us.
Here is a clip of Eberflus talking about Odunze's route running.
How accurate are his routes so far? What are you seeing as far as
I think pretty good for where he is in terms of the process of this. Only having so many reps, I think it's really good. I think it's almost exceptional because he's really doing a good job with a lot of things, and we're putting him in different positions, and he's moving around. And sure, he has the oh shoot, I'm on this side, I should be on that side. That's all learning process, but he'll get that.
Pretty good, really good, almost exceptional route running. One more Eberflus on Rome Odunze here.
Usually you draft a guy, a wide receiver especially, number 9 overall, that guy's expected to come in and be the focal point of the offense, or a focal point of the offense. It's a little different because of the guys you already have. How do you make sure you guys aren't going too slow with Rome, that you are able to get everything that he is able to do as a rookie?
Yeah, I don't think we're going too slow because we're giving him a lot. He's playing multiple positions, and I really think that he's going to be able to handle those concepts. And we all know the benefit of being with the two veterans. Seeing those guys, understanding how they operate during the course of a week. That's going to be really good. They're going to help him through training camp, because there's wisdom there with years and experience. But I really believe that he's going to have the ability to take off because of the other players. You're not going to be able to hone in on one guy. Say we just had him and he was the number one right now. So you'd be like, wow. So they could really do some things to him defensively, but you're not going to be able to do that versus our crew.
To that end, it seems like everyone you talk to about Roman, his past or present, talks about his feel for the game and his IQ. I'm just curious how you describe what you've experienced that with him since you got to know him here in the spring.
Yeah, there's some guys just have a knack to do it, right? They can see the pictures, the drawings, in the classroom, and they can apply that right to the field. And he's able to process a bunch of information at the same time, and then take it to the field. And he's really good that way. And he's, as you follow his career at Washington, University of Washington, and he's done a great job of making himself a great player, and he's going to continue to grow that way.
You're not going to be able to hone in on one guy. This certainly sounds like the Bears are going to play a lot more 11 personnel, a lot more 3 receiver sets. One last clip here. This is Shane Waldron, offensive coordinator, talking about Rome Odunze.
Tell us about Rome's ability to process and take what he learns and put it on the field. As a play caller, what does that do for you confidence-wise in terms of what he can absorb, what you can bring for him in this offense, and what's your excitement level to kind of get him incorporated?
I think any receiver that has that value of being able to play multiple spots, line up in different alignments, run a varied route tree, I think is a bonus for an offense. I think it allows less tips and tells for a defense, and I feel like with us, with Rome and DJ, Keenan, Gerald, Cole, we got a different group of guys that can all be versatile in what they're asked to do. And so the great thing about Rome going from a draft process to on the field now is seeing that, whether it was him talking about plays or whatever it was in the different formal meetings and pro days, all those things. And then that comes to life when he gets into a new system and he's able to pick up an offense right away, really understand all 3 of the receiver spots right away. So he's not sitting there locked into one thing. He's really picking this offense up as a conceptual learner, which I think only helps him for down the road in the regular season when you start moving guys around.
Gerald Everett getting a shout out there before Cole Kmet. We'll talk about that in a little bit. A lot of people are afraid to draft Rome Odunze because they saw what happened to Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle last season under Shane Waldron. But I'm not sure that Odunze is the JSN slot piece in this offense. Odunze is even more versatile in terms of being able to play on the outside and contested catch ability. He's also one of the top 3 prospects that Matt Harmon has charted for reception perception since 2021, joining Jamar Chase and Marvin Harrison Jr. The JSN role in this offense may actually end up being 32-year-old Keenan Allen, who hasn't played a full season since 2019. DJ Moore is my wide receiver 22. That is even with the market. Keenan Allen, wide receiver 32, also even with consensus. Rome Odunze, wide receiver 36 for me. That is 2 spots ahead of the market. I also kind of like him to go over 650.5 receiving yards on BetMGM. Chicago tight end. There are 2 tight ends here mucking things up for us. We have Cole Kmet and then Gerald Everett, who spent the first 5 seasons of his career with Shane Waldron. Waldron was the Rams tight end coach in 2017 when LA drafted Everett with the 44th overall pick. when Shane Waldron left the Rams in 2021 to take the OC job in Seattle, Gerald Everett followed him there. And now they're reunited once again in Chicago. Everett is a good tight end, at least, when it comes to the receiving game. They are going to use him, and that dings Cole Kmet's value. Kmet is coming off the board as the tight end 15 on Underdog, which is crazy to me. Just absolute cuckoo cocoa bananas. Cole Kmet, tight end 24. For me, that is 9 spots after consensus. Gerald Everett, tight end 35. That is 6 spots before the market. The Detroit Lions. We've all seen the splits for Jared Goff, who's very Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to pressure versus no pressure, cold weather games versus warm weather games, indoors versus outdoors. For the pressure aspect, I think we can feel pretty good about that because Detroit has arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. Top 2 or 3 at the very least. So Goff should enjoy a clean pocket and have plenty of time to throw this season. As for the indoor-outdoor stuff, the Lions only play 3 outdoor games in 2024. Now, 2 of those are in weeks 16 and 17 at Chicago and at San Francisco after they host the Bills in week 15. But overall, a fantastic setup for Jared Goff this year. He has an arsenal of lethal weapons and one of the brightest offensive minds in the league in Ben Johnson. Really nice outlook here. Jared Goff is my QB 16. That is even with the market. Lions running backs. We will start here with this clip back in May from General Manager Brad Holmes on Jahmyr Gibbs.
How many more carries do you think, how many more touches can he have this year? Not to have you tell any tales out of school, but what a special player he is obviously turning into, Brad. So what's your plan for him year 2?
Yeah, I definitely would expect him to see more of a load. But it's David Montgomery will still be here too, and we love Dan and I love that 1-2 punch of him and David. So, but just speaking him specifically, him being a rookie last year, even when he kind of had some pops in that KC game in that opener. He was. I was watching. I was like, he's still trying to get the feel of the game. Like he was playing very fast, and he actually kind of needed to slow down a little bit. And he openly admitted that, like I just had to slow it down a little bit. I was kind of going too fast, which he was, but once he got that sweet spot and it was about right there, you kind of saw it a little bit in the Ravens game, which was unfortunately we didn't show up very well for that game, but that's when you started seeing some glimpses of I think it's coming. And then obviously that Raiders game where I believe everybody would say it was the breakout. I think that's when you kind of saw, okay, the game is slowing down for him. Now you're seeing exactly what you saw at Alabama, but I think he's got much more to offer in the passing game. So most likely you'll see an increase in that as well.
An increase in receiving production sounds quite nice for Jahmyr Gibbs. Here's my running back 4. That is even with the market. David Montgomery is my running back 17. That is also even with consensus. I'd like to get a lot of him again this year. Detroit gave him 235 touches last season for 1,132 yards and 13 touchdowns. David Montgomery is an outstanding goal line back. Dan Campbell absolutely loves him. And even though Jahmyr Gibbs' touches should increase this year, this is still a 1-2 punch, like Brad Holmes said. And Montgomery will be getting a lot of work behind a top 3 offensive line in an offense that's going to score a ton of points. Plus, No other running back has contingent value this massive if something were to happen to the other guy in their backfield. Give me that Montgomery. Lions wide receivers. I want to go down a timeline of Dan Campbell's coach speak on Jameson Williams. And we'll start August 2nd, 2023. Dan Campbell says, we just got to keep working through it. We just got to keep working through it. And this is about Jameson Williams, just kind of overall, but also they asked him about Jameson Williams' propensity for dropping the ball. October 24th, 2023, when he had a couple bad drops during the regular season. Dan Campbell said, we got to keep working. We're just going to keep working. And then December 4th, 2023, here's a clip.
With the way he used Jameson Williams was the game. Just take me through that play, just his speed and kind of using him in different ways, not just a receiver as well.
Yeah, it was. Well, look, obviously great call by Ben. Something that's been in the laboratory cooking for a while, and so it felt like it was the right time to call it up. And listen, he executed it great, man. The thing was well blocked. Did a great job keeping his eyes on it, and the rest was up to him. I mean, he's just pure gasoline around the edge. It's a heck of a play. So, yeah, I mean, look, we're like anybody else. We want to find other creative ways to continue to use him. And like I said before, he just continues to grow. He just gets a little bit better every day, and he's working, and it's good, man. It's good. We're in a good place right now.
All right, this next clip is Dan Campbell on Jameson Williams 1 week later.
We've seen Jameson's snap count grow. We've heard from you guys the trust is growing in him in his execution of the roles, but the targets aren't there. Is there a need to find, I guess, an expansion of the route tree to find other ways to get the ball in his hand beyond the, some of these handoffs and deep shots?
Yeah, we'll keep working with him. He's improving. So, we'll keep working to find some different ways to get him more involved, because he's putting the work in and he's improving, and but he's really no different than Saint. Keep finding ways to get Saint more involved. Reynolds did some good things, find a way to get him involved. So look, we're going to do what's best for us and ask our guys to do things they do well, and so yeah, we absolutely he's earned that, so we're going to keep working at it.
Ask our guys to do things that they do well. That's very interesting, because how Dan Campbell is talking about Jameson Williams getting better. They're working at it. If you subscribe to Matt Harmon's reception perception, which I'm going to bring him up a lot, because wide receiver is such an important position to nail in fantasy. That's the most of a position that you put out there. And he's just like the best at charting these guys and letting I believe it's their motto, letting you know who's good before basically the public knows. But Matt Harmon charted Jameson Williams 2023 season, and there's a really big difference between before December and after, like, mid-December, when Dan Campbell is making these statements about, hey, we're gonna keep working, and he's getting better. And you see in that reception perception that Jameson Williams was much better around mid-December and after. And we all know about the injury in his rookie season and the gambling suspension last year, and just hasn't had a lot of field time, right? And you need snaps. It's that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing. The more work you put in, the more actual game snaps you get. That's going to help you out. So really cool to see everything kind of coincide and synergize here. This is after the season, February 27th. Dan Campbell on Jameson Williams.
And how are you satisfied with where do you see him?
He's asking, how are you satisfied with Jameson Williams?
Yeah, he progressed, and when he was able to come back off, when we got him, week 4 of the season after he had the suspension, and all we asked of him was growth. Just get better, just get a little bit better, and just become one of the guys, somebody that we can rely on in this offense. Just do your job, and that's exactly what he did. And you can see by the end of the year, we really felt like he started to come into his own, and he is going to push to be a full-time starter now, and that's what we're looking for. And we said it before, everybody grows at a different rate, and maybe it's taken him a little bit longer, but he is developing and he's growing, and he is certainly one of the team. The kids come on, so we got high hopes for him. We see him continuing to grow as long as he gets back and puts the work in like we believe he will, because he's shown that. He's only going to get better and better and better.
All right, so believes that Jameson Williams is going to put the work in, get better and better and better. That's very important, because this next clip is a few months later, May 23rd, Dan Campbell on Jameson Williams.
Early, Dan, but Pats haven't come on and all that kind of stuff for competition. But when it comes to JMO, just how would you like him coming back? You guys are probably gonna look to him to step into a number 2 role, and what does he come back like?
Yeah, look, there again, all right, so we started this thing, back in April, and, you got phase 1 for a couple of weeks. Then we've been on the grass for 3 weeks in phase 2, which has been routes on air and fundamentals and individual and doing all this. And then we're 2 practices in. And if you said, give me one player that is the most improved from that start to finish in that time, JMO would be that guy right now. All right, he is a man on a mission, and I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, I'm going to leave it at that.
Man, I love Dan Campbell so much. What a guy. Campbell has a 90% reliability rating on depth chart and usage and workload coach speak. Dude is such a straight shooter. So, yeah, I'm buying all of this. It is important to note that Campbell hasn't officially declared Jameson Williams as a full-time starter yet. There have been some additional hints when he's talked about other players, but the statements Dan Campbell has made so far on JMO is that he's pushing for that full-time role and that he's a highly improved man on a mission. I'm sure that once training camp gets underway, Campbell will have a better feel, and he'll certainly be asked about it, and then we can trust whatever he says. Relatedly, here's Dan Campbell talking about Josh Reynolds last season in October of 2023, and we'll talk about why that is important right after the clip.
You've talked about Josh Reynolds a handful of times over the last 6 or 7 weeks. Ben brought him up yesterday, just sort of unprompted, said he's a guy that maybe hasn't gotten enough attention. Just from your standpoint, what has he meant to this offense, fighting through the injuries that he had, and just making the big plays that he has at the time?
He's been, since 2021, he's been one of the best additions we could have had. I mean, he's perfect for what we are, because he's, the reliability factor, the hands, the route tree that he's able to run, it goes a long way. I laugh every Wednesday because we go and there'll be things where we ask him, he goes from X to Z, back to this formation change, it could be F. And then here's who you got to block in the run game. I know we said it was support. This time it's got to be corner. All right, this time we need you to come back and block this wheel line back. He does all these things. So he does all the dirty work. He's been an explosive receiver for us. And he is very reliable. So he's a guy, you're calling plays like Ben or you're myself. There's a huge comfort level in having that guy because he's been a clutch receiver for us. And he's kind of an unsung hero for us, because he does so many different jobs. And that's what I said. It's a blessing and a curse when you're Reynolds, man, because you can handle a lot. We throw a lot at him. And, Wednesday's always a big package for him to have to mentally okay, you're here on this set, you're here on. So he just gives you flexibility to not only putting him in certain spots, but it allows you to put Saint in certain spots because he can play the other ones. So he's a huge asset for us.
Did you hear how much Dan Campbell just absolutely loved Josh Reynolds? I mean, such high praise. And again, Dan Campbell, very straight shooter. I've talked about the Denzel Mims clip from last year where during the offseason, the Lions had brought in Denzel Mims. They signed him, and they asked Dan Campbell, hey, how's Denzel Mims doing? What's the outlook? And he said, he's in the room. That's about all I can tell you. And then they cut Denzel Mims a day or two later. This guy doesn't bullshit around, all right? He's telling you exactly how it is. He loved Josh Reynolds. And Detroit let Josh Reynolds walk in free agency and did not draft any receivers. These are just more signs of the Lions' growing confidence in Jameson Williams. Here's a clip from June 5th. This is Dan Campbell on Khalif Raymond.
Jared earlier this spring kind of referenced him as the forgotten guy of this core or whatever, and I wonder, I know he's not forgotten in your mind, but what the value of him and maybe does it even grow this year, especially with Josh coming?
Yeah, Leaf is he's another one of our Swiss Army knives. He does it all for us. His versatility to play all the positions. He can play the X, the F, the Z, and he's our returner. He's got real return ability and speed. All right, so he mentally knows those three positions offense, and he's got speed. So he's a guy that's always going to have a place in our offense. It's a matter of how much do you use him and where do you use him at, but he's going to be a critical piece for us offensively, but also obviously as a returner too, because the new kickoff too now, it may be right in his wheelhouse as well.
All right. We'll talk there about Khalif Raymond, late round flyer. Not sure why I was using that voice. June 6th. Here's Dan Campbell on Donovan Peoples-Jones.
With Jameson emerging and Khalif Raymond being so proficient, what are your realistic expectations from Donovan Peoples-Jones?
Yeah, I think he's another guy that's coming in here to help us compete, and there again, it's hard to say. This thing will shake out when we get to camp. There's a reason why we signed him back. We like DPJ. He's a different body type. He's a pretty smart guy. He brings something a little bit different to the table. He's got to play big boy ball, His separation is his size and his length, and he's got to battle some. So we'll see how this goes in training camp, If we didn't like him, he wouldn't be here.
The way Dan Campbell talks about Donovan Peoples-Jones, if I'm sure you noticed, very different than how he's talked about Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, Jameson Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown is my wide receiver 5. That is even with consensus. I'm sure he has a list of the 4 wide receivers being drafted in front of him. Jameson Williams, wide receiver 46 for me. That is 2 spots ahead of the market. Many people are worried about him being the 4th option on his team behind St. Brown and Sam Laporta and Gibbs. But I don't hear these people freaking out about George Kittle or Stephon Diggs as the 4th option on offenses that are going to smash this year. That being said, while I believe he'll be a full-time player and will be very involved in this offense, I do think there will be some volatility that will make Jameson Williams a better and best ball player. Khalif Raymond, my wide receiver 89, that is 5 spots ahead of consensus. Lions tight end. Here is a clip that I'm just going to play it for you. It's from May 30th. It is Dan Campbell talking about Sam Laporta. And here it is.
Sam, said it wasn't just the production. You drafted him because he was a football player, the DNA, the makeup, the consistency. But what kind of challenges are there for a young player that sets a personal bar so high? I mean, just all the records he broke last year. What kind of pressure, if anything, does that have to put on them to replicate, sustain, improve?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, I guess that comes with every individual. I would hope that's not negative pressure that would enter his brain. And just knowing him, per se, just because he may not have the same production as he did this past year doesn't mean that he's not going to help us win or that he's not going to be satisfied. I mean, some of that could be just because there aren't the targets. What if some of those targets go to JMO or more go to Sane or Gibbs or Montgomery or, you know, Brock Wright? Okay. And so, you know, you just don't know. And so for him, I think it's just about, man, whatever job you ask me to do, as long as I'm doing it the best I can do it and I'm helping this team win, I think he's going to be pretty satisfied with that. You know, I don't see him getting caught up in the numbers of the production, you know, relative to what he did the year before.
So there was an entire contingent of people on Twitter who misunderstood this clip when I tweeted it out. Dan Campbell is just saying that Sam Laporta is an extremely unselfish, team-first kind of guy. And that Brock Wright name drop that he tags onto the end with the added effect of the outstretched arm of Moses parting the Red Sea is just an ongoing inside joke between Dan Campbell and the Lions beat reporters about how much Campbell loves Brock Wright. Also, by the way, first name Dan Campbell mentioned about, what if targets go to this guy? Jameson Williams. Sam Laporta will continue to be a focal point of this offense, so don't you worry your little head about it. Sam Laporta is my tight end one. That is even with the market. The Green Bay Packers. Things seem to click for Jordan Love in a major way beginning in week 11 of last year. Over the final 8 games of the regular season, Love averaged 269 passing yards per game and threw 18 touchdowns while only tossing 1 interception. He benefits from having an outstanding play caller in head coach Matt LaFleur. And while this offense may not have elite talent at a given spot, they are loaded with very talented playmakers. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. Maybe we allow Romeo Doubs into this club for the night. And then obviously you have the backfield of Josh Jacobs and rookie Marshawn Lloyd. The Packers are going to score like they are Wilt Chamberlain on Viagra. And if Jordan Love keeps progressing and continues making the leap that he was making at the end of 2023, Green Bay may end up as the highest scoring offense this year. Jordan Love is my QB 10. That is even with the market. In the fantasy playoffs, Love and the Packers will travel to Seattle week 15, host New Orleans on Monday Night Football for week 16, and then back on the road in week 17 to face the Vikings. Let's talk about this backfield. Here is Matt LaFleur back in March on Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs can bring with your offense, the way you guys like to use backs?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps off to me is just his play style. Like, he is a tough, hard-nosed, he can be a high-volume guy. Just studying him, I think there's more out there for him in regards to the passing game, using him out of the backfield. he's put some really good choice routes on tape, and that's something that we always try to get to. We've done it a little bit more down in the red area, but I love the person, just being around him, in that brief time when he came into Green Bay. It's not a shocker to me that why he wore a C on his jersey. You can just see the kind of person he is, and I'm really excited about just his style of play. I just think when you look at his body of work, his play style, his running style, I think he'll excel in whether we run outside zone, the gap schemes he's been super productive with. And I think, like I was telling these guys earlier, I think there's some things that we can do with him in the pass game as well, kind of getting him out of the backfield. I think there's to him in that regard.
All right. Here's another clip from I believe this was the owners' meeting, March 26th. This was before the NFL draft. This is Matt LaFleur on the backfield split.
Running back, Josh is about as close to a workhorse back as there is anymore in this league. Is that in any way challenge or change that
I don't think so.
system?
No, I think you guys know how I feel philosophically. I think you have to have multiple backs in this league. Those guys take a beating. No, it's always a luxury when you have a guy that can take those number of carries and be a high volume guy. But I don't see it really changing much in terms of how we want to use our backs. I always think it's a marathon. The NFL season's a marathon, and you need your best players healthy, especially at the end of the season. And then when, kind of like a season to go, when your back's against the rope, so to speak, then you kind of unleash it, and you got to do whatever you got to do to win. So, but I think that's a luxury for us, that he is capable of carrying the ball that many times.
And then one more video. This is a couple months later, May 29th. Matt LaFleur talking about Josh Jacobs and the running back rotation. Once again, this was after the draft, after the Packers drafted Marshawn Lloyd.
Keep the kind of the same rotation you've had in the past. Aaron Jones was basically a 60% guy, snaps. Do you want to do the same with him, or do you want to get him out there more?
We'll see. I think time will tell. I philosophically, no matter who the runner is, typically we like to, platoon those guys, whether it's 2 guys or 3 guys. I just think it allows the running backs to stay fresh throughout the duration of the season. It's a very violent position they play, and some of those hits are high impact hits, and just to keep them fresh throughout the course of the year. And then when it gets down to the end of it, you got to roll with whoever you feel gives you the best opportunity to win games. And but I do think there's a lot of benefit to having multiple runners in there in terms of just number one, I think it lengthens their careers. But I do think he's very capable of being a high volume feature back where he's getting the bulk of the carries, but we'll see how it plays out.
Matt LaFleur has a 75% reliability rating on depth chart coach speak and a 70% reliability rating on usage and workload coach speak. By the way, Derrick Henry saw 233 opportunities under 2018 Titans offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur. Dion Lewis saw 222 opportunities that same season in LaFleur's offense. This is what Matt LaFleur does. Josh Jacobs is Matt LaFleur's new Aaron Jones. He may see workhorse use at times, but that won't extend throughout the entire season. On the positive side, he figures to see a lot of work in the passing game and red zone like Aaron Jones did. This offense is just absolutely going to cook in 2024, and Josh Jacobs should be a key piece of that. If the Packers are facing must-win games at the end of the season, That's typically when Matt LaFleur's lead back does get the lion's share of work. So the fantasy playoffs could be a really good time to have Josh Jacobs. He's dropped down into the 5th round of drafts now. I believe that's a really good value for what he can provide for you, especially at the end of the season. Here is a clip of Matt LaFleur on A.J. Dillon. This was before the NFL draft.
What did it mean to retain AJ and being able to have him now in that room with Josh as you make that transition?
Yeah, I think that's critical. AJ's another guy I think that can be a high volume guy. Unfortunately, this last year, he battled through a lot of stuff, throughout the course of the season. But I thought from just the things that he was able to bring from a pass protection standpoint this year, this was his best year in pass pro. So, we know what we're getting with A.J. Dillon. I think there's some versatility that we can start to use with him moving forward, and trying to be more of a movable piece, not just a tailback.
By movable piece, do you mean trade him or get rid of him, move him out of Green Bay? Here is Matt LaFleur on April 28th. This is right after drafting Marshawn Lloyd.
What excites you the most about Lloyd, the running back?
I think he's a piece that, first of all, he's big. He's 220 pounds. He's got really good speed, and I think he gives us an element out the backfield. He really showcased that the week of the Senior Bowls, especially in the one-on-one situations that he was in, and just gives us a little different flavor, maybe.
A little different flavor, maybe. One more clip of Matt LaFleur on Marshawn Lloyd.
Offensive play caller and designer-in-chief, do you find running back Marshawn Lloyd rather intriguing?
I sure do. He definitely can be a weapon out the backfield. I love his just all the measurables. He's a 220-pound back that runs 4.4 and can run routes out the backfield. So I think he could be a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses.
I think he could be a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses. Here is offensive coordinator Adam Stenovich on whether Marshawn Lloyd will see limited action his rookie season, a la A.J. Dillon.
The play back in 19, right? It was Aaron Jones, Jamal, and A.J. just didn't play one game, basically. Can you see that same thing with Lloyd, or do you kind of need to get him out there?
No, I would like to get him out there as much as possible. I think, he's got a skill set that's a little bit different than AJ's as far as his speed. He's not quite the bruiser that he is, obviously, but he's got a different type of skill set. So it'll be nice to get him the ball in space and just see what he can do, because I think he's going to add a good explosive element to the offense for sure.
All right. Josh Jacobs is my running back 11. That is one spot ahead of the market. Marshawn Lloyd, running back 39, 4 spots ahead of consensus. He's not great in pass protection, and he had some issues with ball security in college, but he could be a nice change of pace back who sees high value touches in this Packers offense. If something were to happen to Josh Jacobs, I'm not so sure that Marshawn Lloyd becomes a workhorse back or even the lead back, but he should have standalone value regardless, unless he just absolutely falls on his face. I've been taking a good amount of him in the 12th round of best ball drafts. I'm not as into him for redraft at that price, but I would certainly draft him if he fell much further than that. A.J. Dillon, my running back 69, nice, 6 spots ahead of the market. Packers wide receivers, here is Matt LaFleur on December 15th of 2023, dropping a guest reception perception profile on Dontavian Wicks.
What did you think of what Wicks gave you, and if you're able to have him this week, what did you think of? You were talking about how you kind of had to do it by committee to replace Christian. You know, he had that catch where I think Jordan's ball kind of sailed on him, it was behind him, and he made that play. What does he?
You're
do?
saying on the third down play on the sail route? Yeah, I think that was it was a great catch. We had tight coverage. Banks was all over him. I just think he's a guy that has a lot of ability in his body in order to get off the line of scrimmage. If he gets bump coverage, he's got really good play strength to fight through contact. I think his route running ability is really good. I don't think there's anything he cannot run. He can, break tackles. We saw it. What was it, the Charger game where, he caught that stick route, got popped in the back and turned and got out of it. And he's made a couple other plays. Obviously, the Atlanta game, he ran a dagger route and was able to double up versus bad leverage and break across the defender's face. He's made a lot of big plays for us, this year, and he's a guy that we're really excited about. I think the sky's the limit for him. I really do. I think he's got a really high ceiling. I know he cares about football. I think that it's a pretty impressive room, to be honest with you, just with the number of young guys in the room, and watching them grow has been a lot of fun. And so we're excited about not just Wicks, but that whole room.
If you think that we are done with the Dontavian Wicks propaganda, you are wrong, my friend. Here is Matt LaFleur 1 week later on seeing glimpses of Devontae Adams in Dontavian Wicks.
I asked Jordan this, and I'm going to use the same phrase. I'm asking this cautiously. I'm not comparing these two people right now today. But I think you said something to Buck and Aikman along these lines too before the Monday night game, that you can see some glimpses of Devontae in Dontavian. And they said that you didn't want them to say that, but then they did it, and they did anyway. When you look at him, and again, he's got a million miles to go before he's in the same class as Devontae is, but what are some of the qualities he possesses that maybe remind you of Tay?
I just think it's that short area quickness, being able to, the way I like to, I guess, compare it is to crossing somebody over on the basketball court. Like, he's got that ability to play on his insteps, and he's got that short area quickness. You mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, he's got a ways to go before he gets to that level. But I do think, like, as far as the skill set and all that you look for in a guy, I think the sky's the limit for him, quite frankly. It's just, it's about making sure that you take those steps, especially being mindful. I would say it's going to be a huge off season for him, how he handles that time. And the one thing that is just the whole mindset that 17 had and has. That's one of the things that made him who he is. Obviously, he's got the ability in his body, and he's worked at it at a super high level. But it's really the mentality, and that's going to be important for Wicks to up his game to the next level. I would say is just how intentional is he in the work that he puts in the off season.
So often we bet on a player because of opportunity, and we're less sure about their talent. Jameson Williams, Keon Coleman, Darnell Mooney. Dontavian Wicks is the opposite of that. He's an outstanding route runner, and he's so smooth with his hands and his movement. A lot to like about him in his rookie season, and then to think about what he'll look like if he makes another big leap in year 2, like Matt LaFleur believes he can. That is very exciting stuff. I know it's a crowded receiver room, but I want to bet on talent here and then look back after the season is over and say, I can't believe Dontavian Wicks was going in the 11th round. Here is Matt LaFleur talking about Christian Watson and his hamstring issues.
Do you have a plan for him from a workload standpoint or anything than you've had in his previous years?
No, I think it's just, some of the training methods and then him making sure that he's doing all the little things when he's away from here. And I think he's embraced that and has been very disciplined in his approach. And so he is in a really good place right now.
May 21st, but do you feel like you've got the answers there that you feel confident?
Well, I think time will tell. I mean, certainly you got to get through the entire off season into training camp, and there's a lot of volume in training camp. So I think we get through that, then we'll feel pretty good about it. But both he and Stokes look like they're in probably the best shape I've seen either one of them.
Best shape of his life. That whole thing where they found out that there was a 20% difference in muscle mass between each of Christian Watson's legs was so wild. Christian Watson is a target earner when he's on the field and he sees high value targets, deep targets. There's so much potential and so many different outcomes for this Green Bay receiver room. What if Christian Watson stays healthy this year? Can you imagine anything other than 1,000 plus yards and 8 plus touchdowns? I want some Christian Watson bags in best ball. Definitely some risk with the hamstring, but there's a lot of upside for him in a Green Bay offense where Jordan Love plays at a high level. Here is Matt LaFleur, June 13th, talking about Romeo Doubs in the spring that he had.
Asked a lot of questions about not necessarily having a clear-cut number one, but Jordan sure went to Romeo in the red zone a lot last year. He had a third down catch today in 2 minutes. That was pretty critical. Where do you see him in his development and his connection with your quarterback?
Yeah, I think Rome's had an outstanding spring. I really do. And it's evident by the work that he puts in on a daily basis. He's in there in the morning catching off the jugs. He's one of the last guys to leave the building. He's very deliberate about the work he puts in, and I think it showed. And he's, we challenged him on a couple of things that we thought he could really do a better job with, and just continuing to stress the importance of opening up his stride, and he's embraced that, and I think you've seen that, and I think he's had a lot of great moments. As a matter of fact, I can't think of a bad day that he's had out there. He is definitely improving.
This receiving room is getting more crowded by the second. Jaden Reed is my wide receiver 38. That is 4 spots behind consensus. I think he's a super talented playmaker. If Christian Watson stays healthy, though, that's going to hamper Reed's upside. When Jaden Reed played without Christian Watson, he saw a 29.2% target per route run rate. When Watson was on the field, that dropped all the way down to 18.4%. A lot of mouths to feed in this offense, and Christian Watson is a big one when they're all healthy. I certainly want to have some Jaden Reed best ball teams because, one, Christian Watson may not stay healthy, and two, we may never be able to predict which Packers receiver is going to go off in a given week. And Jaden Reed may be the guy you need in one or several weeks of the fantasy playoffs. And you have possible scenarios where a low number of Jaden Reed best ball teams advance because his ADP is a bit higher maybe than it should be. But then if you advanced one of those Jaden Reed teams, now you have a real uniqueness advantage of if Reed were to explode in the fantasy playoffs. Figuratively, of course, not. We don't want him literally exploding. Christian Watson is my wide receiver 44. That is one spot behind the market. Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver 53, 6 spots ahead of consensus. Romeo Dobbs, wide receiver 59. That is 5 spots behind the market. Bo Melton, wide receiver 101. That is 4 spots ahead of consensus. And a real flyer here, Malik Heath, wide receiver 110, 47 spots ahead of the market. Packers tight ends, 2 very promising tight ends here in Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Musgrave and Jordan Love missed on what would have been some really big plays last year before Love flipped the switch. Unfortunately, Musgrave suffered an abdominal injury in Week 11 and ended up missing 6 of those games down the stretch where Jordan Love turned into a human flamethrower. Tucker Kraft filled in and caught some of that heat, averaging 5 targets and 46.8 receiving yards per game during that 6-game window Musgrave missed. Here's Matt LaFleur last December 25th, gushing over then rookie tight end Tucker Kraft.
Big plays early.
Yeah.
One late, 2 with that.
Wow. Well, I can't say enough great things about Tucker Kraft. First of all, how tough he was or is, and just making critical plays, man. He's brought so much to our offense, and it's been so fun to see him progress and get better and work. He's got so much confidence, and for a lot of reasons, and he's put the work in. I think JD's done a great job with him. I think that whole room kind of pushes each other, and all those young guys are going to be a lot of fun to work with for hopefully a long time.
He loves them. Tucker Kraft tore his pectoral muscle while bench pressing back in May. They are hoping he'll be back by week 1, but there is no guarantee. One more clip here. This is Matt LaFleur on Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. This was from June 4th of this year.
Musgrave had a bunch of good moments for you last year, then he got hurt, and then Kraft came over, and then he had a bunch of good moments too. What's it going to do for your offense to actually get those 2 guys on the field? You get that luxury too often.
Yeah, I think it just adds to the the complexity of your offense in terms of having multiple personnel groupings. I think both those guys can do it all. I think they both will end up becoming complete tight ends in this league in terms of their ability to run block and then what they can do for you in the passing game. And I think they both have a little bit different flavor to them, which for us allows for more flexibility on the offense side of the ball. And, they're both great dudes that love the game of football. And I think just to see where they are right now from a year ago, it's night and day.
Matt LaFleur is a big fan of flavors. Get this man a Dr. Pepper. Luke Musgrave is my tight end 16. That is 1 spot ahead of the market. Not someone that I would target in redraft, but I love his upside in best ball where I can either pair him with an elite tight end and maybe be done, or make him part of a 3 tight end build. Tucker Kraft, tight end 26 for me. That is 6 spots ahead of consensus. I think he is going too late in best ball drafts for the spike week potential that he provides. The Minnesota Vikings start with the quarterback. Here is Kevin O'Connell on June 12th talking about his QB1 going into training camp.
So I'll say I'm your number 1 quarterback going into camp.
Yeah, we haven't had we haven't had to put out a depth chart or anything like that, but yeah, I would say Sam. Sam would be the guy I would look to based upon the spring he's had and really where he's at in his career and his quarterback journey and what he's been able to do coming in and really hit the ground running and really kind of take advantage of a competitive situation. But at the same time, JJ's really improved. Nick Mullins has had a great spring, and Jaron has also improved. So I've told all four of those guys, look, depth charts are great, and it's great to understand where I'm at currently today, but that'll mean really nothing, about, the future. That'll be nothing about a week or two out. And most importantly, we played four of them last year, including, one guy who was not in our building throughout the offseason or training camp, and relied on him to come in and win a game and then try to, play it out from there. So I have total understanding of we only control so much in this whole thing. And that's what I've challenged the quarterbacks to do, is control what you can, which is your preparation. How detailed can you be? And can you stack good periods of practice together, good days together? And before you know it, you're looking up and it's not about the camp you've had, it's about your readiness to help the Minnesota Vikings win, is hopefully what all of our players are going to be coming reporting back here with the mindset on.
So Sam Darnold, QB1, heading into training camp. Kevin O'Connell explaining that the current depth chart doesn't necessarily inform how things will shake out. We see teams in the NFL sometimes rush things along, whether it's bringing a player back from injury too soon or putting a young quarterback out on the field who isn't ready quite yet. Kevin O'Connell's Vikings take a very measured, careful approach. They probably could have brought Justin Jefferson back from his hamstring injury earlier than they did last season, but they decided to be overly cautious with their franchise player. I'm betting they'll take that same approach with J.J. McCarthy, where they don't start him until they are 1,000% sure that he's ready. And who knows when that is going to be. Maybe it's week 1. Maybe it's after their week 6 bye. Maybe it's at the end of the season. This is a situation that we will need to monitor closely during training camp. J.J. McCarthy is my QB 30. That is even with consensus. Sam Darnold, QB 34 for me. Excuse me. Also, even with the market. I'm getting choked up over Sam Darnold. Oh no, what has my life become? Minnesota's fantasy playoff schedule has them hosting the Bears in week 15, on the road in Seattle, week 16, then back home week 17 to host the Packers. Minnesota running backs. Let's start with Kevin O'Connell on December 19th of 2023, talking about running back Ty Chandler.
What's Alex Madison's outlook for this week? And even if he is back, would you see Ty Chandler continuing to start?
Yeah, Alex is going to try to work himself, back this week. We'll see how he does throughout the week. There's no question that I thought Ty had a huge role and impact on the game the other day, and we've been, giving Ty more and more carries, throughout the middle part of the season, especially going back to, losing Cam Akers for the duration of the year. Ty is, absolutely a guy that is going to continue to see a featured role in our offense. What that looks like moving forward, as far as who gets the first touch of the game and all those things, we'll continue to kind of work through based upon what we're attempting to do scheme-wise. But there's no question that we have confidence in Alex. But I think Ty's done a lot of great things and will continue to do so, and hopefully will be a huge reason why we're able to have success offensively down the stretch here.
Yeah, Kevin, I was just wondering if you could just kind of take us through your sort of plan for Ty Chandler's development this year. As you said, he was starting to get more carries. That kind of corresponded with injuries. Did you see him getting on the field kind of regardless, or did it need to be opened up? His opportunity need to be opened up by injuries to others?
No, I saw Ty getting on the field regardless. It's always been, kind of his plan since we selected him last year. We've had our eyes on continued growth and development, and I know, nobody gets more excited than when I see Ty go out there and have the success he did, but it has been, a part of his growth and process, and As great as Ty was running the football the other day, there were some great moments in protection on some play passes where, he solidified some things for us, had great awareness of the looks we were playing against, whether it was going fast in tempo situations, tried to get them going on a screen, got them going out of the backfield for a big 3rd and short conversion. It's just all of the different aspects that I think Ty brings to the table, Kevin, and his comfort level, while also, having a major role, for in the special teams phase as our personal protector. I'm not sure if I'm, faking it twice this year in big situations if Ty Chandler's not the guy with the ball in his hands in those moments. So Ty's had a big impact, and like I said, I think Ty is exactly, where we want him to be in his progression, and I think the role, he's ascending to is something that, we had our minds on when we brought him here, and we'll continue to do everything to, get him valuable touches and make him a big part of our offense.
Now we will fast forward a couple months to the NFL Combine, and Kevin O'Connell giving us another Ty Chandler signal, and you are going to hear a very familiar voice ask this question.
What's your running back room heading into next year? Feels like last year Madison, first year taking over for Dalvin as the lead. Ty Chandler towards the end of last year seemed to really take over. I'm curious how you view your running back room heading into this season.
Yeah, I think that, the way Ty finished the season was a real positive, and going year 2 into year 3 will be a huge opportunity for him to continue his growth. Thought Alex did some good things in our system and ran hard, ran physical. As you go through the cut-up evaluation process after the season, you can really kind of gauge, things that worked well, things that didn't, things you need to improve on, things that I can do better as a coach. But then you see some of the individual performances that maybe don't always jump out on the stat sheet, but it was a critical play here and there. And then we've got some young players in the room as well. So it's always a position that I think, whether free agency or the draft, you're looking to continue to infuse talent and different skill sets into that room. But no, feel good about what those guys were able to do, and more importantly, hopefully what we can build on from there. Specifically with Ty towards the end of the season, I thought seeing him really come on there and kind of really start to assert himself was a real positive for our team.
All right, one more Ty Chandler clip, also from late February with the great Paul Allen. Here is Kevin O'Connell talking about Ty Chandler.
I absolutely love where Ty finished the year. The big thing for him now, year 2 to year 3, is just that every down consistency so that he can get those consistent touches, volume touches in a game. But to do that, he's got to be able to do every phase of our offense consistently with no let-up. What does that look like? Catching the football out of the backfield, blitz pickup, understanding the mental game. I call it that mental warfare that's going on between offense and defense. Yeah. Snap in and snap out PA. But I love where Ty's at. Going to be a big offseason for him. Really, really excited about Ty.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you
very much.
They like Ty Chandler a lot. We will talk about that more after this next clip. This is March 16th, and it's Kevin O'Connell talking about Aaron Jones.
I've always been a huge Aaron Jones fan. Running the football, his ability to impact the game in the pass game, the poise and the demeanor and the leadership that really kind of, was very, very visible from an opposing sideline of the player. And all of that's been confirmed in a short amount of time, really since we've been able to have him in the building today and getting around him. I think he enhances our room more than just the addition of another running back. It's how he fits his skill set with Ty and our other runners in the room, and more importantly, what he may unlock from things he's done in this league, things that fit for our offense. He's a complete back from a standpoint of a guy that's played a lot of football. He is 29 years old, but he's also been part of an offense where he hasn't had to, carry the full burden, the full load, and the impact on third down as a pass protector, a receiver out of the backfield of 5 yards per carry career average. I mean, this is a guy that's had the type of impact we were looking for
to add to our room, and I'm really, really excited to start getting to work with Aaron.
Kevin O'Connell is obviously aware of Aaron Jones's injury history and his age that he mentioned there. We know the Vikings philosophy when it comes to, valuing their players' availability and what they need to do for that to happen. Sounds like the Vikings want to use Aaron Jones in kind of a similar fashion as Matt LaFleur did with the Packers, where they don't run him down in a season where Aaron Jones is turning 30 years old. And Kevin O'Connell can't stop talking about Ty Chandler. He loves this guy. The Vikings failing to draft a running back this year is just another sign of that. Chandler will see a significant role this year. Could be as high as 35-40% of the backfield work. The Vikings haven't talked much about offensive scheme this offseason, but my sense is that they're going to lean on the backfield more this year with Kirk Cousins gone. We're going to see them run more. We're going to see them use their backs a lot more in the passing game. Aaron Jones is my running back 18. That is one spot ahead of the market. Ty Chandler, running back 43 for me, 3 spots ahead of consensus. Vikings wide receiver. No coach speak really on the receivers here. Jordan Addison was just arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. We don't know what length suspension he's facing, but after he was cited for speeding at 140 miles per hour and reckless driving last season, it could end up being a healthy chunk of games. Justin Jefferson is my wide receiver 4. That's even with the market. He is going to be peppered with targets this year. He's also going to draw a lot of double and triple coverage because the Vikings have absolutely 0 good receivers beyond Jefferson and I guess maybe we'll say Addison, who is likely to miss some time. I dropped Jordan Addison down to wide receiver 49 in my rankings after the DUI news. That is 10 spots after consensus, but this news is not reflected in the market yet. Who the Vikings wide receiver 3 will be is anyone's guess right now. It's looking like it may be Brandon Powell, but this cupboard is just so bare. Might be a rough season for this passing game and for Minnesota in general. Brandon Powell is my wide receiver 106, 24 spots ahead of the market. Minnesota tight end TJ Hawkinson tore his ACL and MCL in week 16 of last season. There is no timeline from the team yet on when he will return. Injury experts are predicting that it's likely we'll see Hawkinson around week 7 or 8 after Minnesota's bye week, but that we should expect a dip in efficiency. He should command a lot of targets in this offense, and it would be nice to have him for the fantasy playoffs. We just have to thread that needle of what's the right price to pay for a top-tier tight end who's going to miss a couple of months and then maybe be inefficient for another month after that. TJ Hawkinson, my tight end 17. That is 1 spot behind the market. That will do it for today's episode on the NFC North. Only one division left to tackle, and that breakdown on the NFC East should release on Wednesday. I know some of you out there are waiting until November to like and subscribe to the podcast because that's when Santa Claus starts finalizing his naughty and nice list. What if you forget, though? What if Santa bumps that cutoff date up and doesn't tell anyone? You go downstairs on Christmas morning and all you have is a stocking full of coal. It'll be like a press conference with all the questions your family will be hurling at you. Why does Santa think you're naughty? What bad thing did you do, Daddy? Clicking that like and subscribe button right now will prevent that harrowing scenario from taking place. Y'all have a good one. I will see you here next time. Sarah, take us out.